So before we get into things, I'd like to acknowledge that Newo's home base is on Treaty 6 territory in communities that are now known as Edmonton and Camrose. We live and work on the traditional and present lands of many Indigenous nations, including Cree, Blackfoot, Nakota Sioux, Dene, Saulteaux, Métis, and many others. These lands are also now a home for many Inuit peoples, as well as settlers and newcomers from around the world. I'd like to acknowledge the promises that were made between these many nations in the treaties. Many promises which sadly have not all been kept, many have been broken, and dreams that were not realized. It's a great part of our work to understand what it means to live as partners in treaty and to live in good relations with the land and her many nations. So I'd like to start things off by passing the mic over to Raj, who's also named Kazakowski in this meeting for some reason. And I'll let you start things off for us, Raj.
Yeah, just go back to the previous slide for a sec. Yeah, I guess I love this slide because it shows the headwaters for our Battle River watershed. And as I was thinking about the land acknowledgement, I also thought about the depth of influence of elder vision and mentorship for our journey and all our journeys, really. And the thing about land acknowledgement is, in order to really acknowledge the land, I think we rely on the vision of elders to show us how to see. And without their guidance, I don't think we would be able to see the layers and depths of what is around us. And so, along with the land acknowledgement, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the foundational role and sacred role of our elders, many of whom are here today on this call. And in particular, the elders who have guided our company, and their sacred preciousness. One elder that provided significant support and guidance to us is Elder Joey, who recently passed away, and we've had a number of elders leave us recently. Last week, Thich Nhat Hanh, and I'd also like to mention David McAdam, who is a close elder of mine as well. So the preciousness of our elders, and I think at the heart, this journey of Newo is about how do we take the teachings of our elders and put them into practice. So this is how we're doing it in this context. And I invite all of you to, I guess, we're all doing a similar thing. We're trying to put the teachings of our elders into practice. And so in that sense, this circle is for all of us. And yeah, and in particular to acknowledge the elders who have come our way and have passed along. And of course, for me personally, I just like to acknowledge the most significant elders in my life. Of course, my parents, who recently celebrated their 50th. So this was a picture taken on their 50th anniversary just a few days ago, actually, January 8th. So thanks, Mom and Dad.
Margaret, you look like a princess here. It's amazing.
And also thanks to the many parents. I know there's a few parents on here. Okay, so yeah, I think most of you know about our company, Newo Global Energy. The name was gifted by Elder Roy Lewis and Judy Lewis, who couldn't be here today, but send their regards. Yeah, we started off, I think, exactly as I've mentioned, as how do we put these teachings into practice? And one foundational element was this notion of relationship, kinship, embodied in the Cree word Wêyôtan. So really, it is said in other traditions that the highest teacher is the one who teaches a relatedness or interdependence. So this is the foundational teaching that we've tried to follow the relationship between mind, body, spirit, emotion, which is also included in the notion of Newo 4. So yeah, that's good for an introduction. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for accompanying us on this journey.
Nice to see everyone. My name is Sebastian. I am I guess the operations manager by title for outsiders to Newo. But lately I've just been describing myself as a professional friend. I took a shower before this call in an effort to look less greasy, and because the last feedback we got from my mom about our community presentation was that Raj and I looked pretty greasy, and the shower backfired because I actually look worse. So anyways, yeah, it's nice to have you all here. I'm going to take you guys through a bit of a run through kind of about the structure of Newo, and also a bit of a narrative flow of kind of the history and where we are today. So Carrie, if you wouldn't mind bumping to the next slide. So we're going to be using some language today based around the structure of the tree. So I myself, and there's a few others in the team, Juliana, and yeah, a couple other members of our team that are part of the trunk. And Carrie, if you want to go to the next part. So I'm doing kind of an update and so of the whole organization. And so we view the internal structure of Newo as a tree. And originally, as I was setting out to talk about the culture and structure, I had like a bunch of slides. I was going to talk about like biomimicry and dynamic leadership and all these different things. But I figured I'd keep it more simple. And really talk about the people in the organization. But first, I'll explain a little bit more about the internal structure. And so, as you can see, there's three main parts to viewing our organization as a tree. There's the roots, which is our board and community. And so we're really trying, and this is an effort as we're doing this presentation and getting our community together, to make sure our community feels like they are part of our organization, because in many ways that's our intention. We want the organization to feel like they are part of the tree, like Raj talked about in the beginning of this conversation. The elders and keeping ourselves grounded in community and culture, the culture around us is very important. We can only rise and be as successful as our community enables us to. Therefore, it plays, an integral role in how we view ourselves. And we hope over the next year or so that, yeah, we can integrate the community more and more as we grow as an organization and as our tree grows. And yeah, like I alluded to, the trunk is really the organizational culture and really serves the administrative functions of our organization. And then the branches are our specialties and services. Just pause there for a second, Carrie. So yeah, I think interesting parts of viewing our organization as a tree is there's no inherent hierarchy in a tree. It's all necessary for the functioning of the tree. The tree, the part above ground could not thrive without the roots. The branches couldn't survive without the trunk and the roots. The trunk wouldn't survive without the branches. It's a circle of mutuality, and that extends far beyond that, as the tree is obviously relationally tied in physical and many other ways to its environment. And so I think by modeling ourselves after a tree, we're trying to embody those notions of relationality and groundedness, and also the removal of impositional hierarchies, which I view as extremely unnecessary and stifling to the human spirit and creativity. So if you want to go to the next slide, Carrie. Like I said, I was going to go and write a bunch of different things, but I think really at the end of the day, our culture is about people. It's about bringing the best out of people, creating a place of work that's more compassionate, more collaborative, and ultimately more creative. And I strongly feel that the way we organize ourselves and the stories we're telling ourselves at large in society currently leaves just far too much human potential on the table. And a lot of the solutions are quite simple. It's starting with yourself, working to come into relation with, the 4 aspects of being a human being: mind, body, spirit, and emotion. That's, parts of ourselves that we're not really well attuned to in our society. And so that's some of the impetus for creating the group and the culture that we have here today. And so to me, I'm really a people person at the end of the day. I want to see people thrive. I want to see people enjoy their work. I want to see people rise to their potential. And as a group, that's what we want to see as well. And so I love these pictures because I think Joby put it the other day that we're really trying to be a group of friends solving problems, right? If you think there's a lot of problems in the world, then that's just as many opportunities to make change and to make a difference. And I think the more that we can come together as, well-rounded individuals that are, I think just feeling good about themselves and what they're doing, I think the problems will wash away pretty quickly. That's obviously relatively naive, but it's really what my passion lies. And so I kind of wish I would have written more because this isn't exactly coming out as I would like it to. But so the bottom right picture, I think, is a really beautiful example of how simple it is to organize and work well. And so that bottom example is of us as a group at Mistahaya, and we're cooking supper together. And we actually cooked many different meals as a group over that weekend. And as I sat and observed, it was fun to see how when you have a group of people that are operating as friends and there isn't like this imposed hierarchy, you just kind of get together and you get stuff done. Like there was like one person who was heading the meal and people just kind of fall into place and just kind of get it done. And it's not as hard as you think. And it's really beautiful and fun, I think. And that's the biggest thing, is that it's fun, but it takes the hard work of relationality, which is the thing we don't take enough time to do. And that's, I think, really what differentiates us as an organization and a culture, is we're really trying to take the time and effort to come into relation, take the time to know our customers, take the time to know ourselves and our organization, take the time to talk to our community and be open and vulnerable as a group. And the thing about getting into relation is the initial phase of it takes a long time, but the speed that you gain through mutual trust and relationality far exceeds, having to operate through contracts and policies and all these other things. So we really trust in relationality, and we trust in that slow effort to yield, I think, beautiful and great results. And if we have, whole and well-adjusted people, then the problems of the world, they won't be as big as we think they are, and we'll be able to come together. And this is coming off a little more hokey than I want, because I have a lot of good things to say. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we just want to see this place be, compassionate, creative, and collaborative, and to extend that to our community, and to invite you into the abundance of good human energy that we're building in Newo. So anyways, I'll pause there because I'm kind of going all over the place, but I appreciate I appreciate everyone giving me that space. I have a lot more to say. I gotta just stop.
Thanks so much, Seb. I think that was really well said. I felt excited hearing that. I'm sure everyone else did too. And I'd also like to just say personally, a big thanks to Seb and to Juliana and to Raj and other members of our trunk who hold us together, who kind of hold us aloft and connect our branches above to our roots below. If we didn't have that trunk, that solid core, we would just be a bush. We would just be roots and branches, which is just not as dramatic a metaphor. So thank you for keeping our metaphor looking and feeling good. So with that, having heard a little bit about our trunk and our core of our organization, I'd like to bring it over and talk a little bit more about the branches of our tree. people and services. So I'll pass it over to Jessica to speak a little bit more about our communications branch.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. My name is Jessica Ryan. I've been working with Newo for 2 years now. I have a background in English and journalism. I'm an Augustana grad and former editor of the Camrose Canadian newspaper. I'm putting my skills in writing, editing, and layout and some photography to work, trying to help out in any way possible at Newo. And apologies, my cat's being a little noisy in the background. A couple of the highlights from this past year, we launched a revamped website in May of 2021 with the help of Second Revolutions Communications. And another thing is we sort of branching slowly into some branded merchandise. We trying to do it as sustainably as possible with t-shirts that have been bought from thrift stores and then printed with our logo. And one of the newest members of the team is Maven Body, who couldn't be here tonight. She's got either jujitsu practice or a firefighting practice. She's a very active member of the Camrose community. And another member of the team is Carrie Kilmartin, and she's going to introduce herself a little bit later when she talks about one of her projects. So that's a little bit about the communications branch. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jessica. And thanks also to Carrie and to Maven for holding down the communications team and keeping us sounding good and sharing our message and sharing the education that we want to bring to the world. So let's switch over and talk a little bit about solar. I'm not sure who's speaking about this. I think that's Seb. So Seb, back over to you.
This is me again. Unfortunately, you guys have to hear. I appreciate the words of support and kindness. Yeah, probably a little bit too hard on myself there. One of the things I did want to say though, as it pertains, I guess, to our communications, is I've heard from a few members of our community, specifically my family, that we don't share enough about what we're up to. And I think, and it's what I wanted to say this in the beginning as well. For the last year during COVID, yeah, a lot of our work has been around building our cultural foundation. And in the beginning of the organization, it was about, getting our professional, I guess, boots on and getting to work and making sure we knew how to do projects. That was about the first 2.5 years. And the last 1.5 or 2 years has really been about culture. And so part of the reason we're having this discussion tonight is to share, I guess, that work that we've been doing in the background. And we're kind of at the confluence of, having our professional shirts on and also feeling solid about our culture and our team. And I think that, yeah, I hope our communications team will have more to share with everyone in the near future. But anyways, we'll hop over to our solar branch. Carrie, if you want to just click through quickly here. So this year we didn't actually do a whole ton of solar projects. Like I said, it was really a lot of internal building and building projects for the future that we'll talk about. But we did do a few residential projects. Nathan was a new member we added to our team. You can see him there in the top right corner. He was helping out with our farmers market booth that we'll hopefully do again in Camrose. And Nathan is a NAIT graduate, and he's taking over the operations on the solar side, which I greatly appreciate. And in the bottom right corner is Drew. He's our master electrician, a very close partner to our organization. And Drew has really come in and helped us solidify ourselves as a very competitive and top-notch solar installation organization. And really helped stabilize our solar end of things, and is a great trainer and a great mentor for our trainees as well. So yeah, I think for the solar side of things, there's going to be a lot more residential work going on this year. Our solar branch is really looking to take a big step forward this year and do a lot more projects residentially, commercially, and agriculturally. So this is going to be our our biggest year on the solar side of things for sure. And then, yeah, I'm talking again for the energy audits. So this is Maroof. It's unfortunate that he's not here right now because he's a hilarious guy, and I wish he was doing this energy audit presentation. But anyways, energy audits is a growing part of what we do at Newo, and Maroof has been working hard to get a lot of different certifications, residentially and commercially, and is now looking to get out there and get some more experience. And so hopefully by the end of this year, we'll be a registered NRCan service organization. And that means we'll be able to do a lot more residential energy audits. And so one of the, and this is, before I go on to that, this is Gage. Some of you probably have met Gage. He worked with us for 3 years. And he just moved on to the city of St. Albert. He's taking a role there, actually. And anyway, so we're wishing Gage the best, and he played a huge role in the formation of our organization. But one of the things that we're looking to do with energy audits for the next year is to make them a little bit more creative. So a lot of energy audits are, as their name suggests, very focused on electric energy and natural gas. And we want to make the audits a little bit more holistic, maybe looking at water, rainwater catchment, food, different aspects that'll make it slightly more holistic. So hopefully, I'm sure there'll be some of you that we help out with some energy audits, and we'll be experimenting on some new things. So if anyone has any good ideas on how to, take a more holistic approach to looking at a home, we're looking at, being a bit more creative on that side of things. And our energy audit division, we have a bunch of significant community energy audits that we're lining up in a couple of First Nations, one in Makoce at Montana, and another with Alexis, which will be attempting to do, I think we'll be successful, energy audits on every single home in those nations in an effort to help get them some money for retrofitting. And one of our training projects actually is going to be building off of these energy audits in the communities, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then just the last thing, while we have all y'all, there are grants available. So a lot of people ask us questions. Carrie, maybe just click through. So we have, there's quite a few available. So there's the NRCan audit. And the NRCan audits are a federal grant up to $5,000. So you need to get an energy audit, which is why we're setting ourselves up for that. And then you can apply for retrofits based on the audit. And then if you live, and so that's for anywhere in Canada, residentially. If you live in Edmonton, there are business and residential grants and incentives for solar and energy audits. And there's also for farms a really good agricultural clean technology program that can cover a significant portion of renewable energy upgrades and energy efficiency upgrades on farms. And there's probably a few other things as well. So if anyone is interested in learning more about available grants, don't hesitate to reach out. We can send you a list of more information on that front, but there are a lot of good incentives out there.
So next up is food sovereignty and permaculture. So you get to hear a bit more from me. So food sovereignty, I think we can bring a definition up on screen here. Some of you may have heard the term food sovereignty. Some of you may have heard a term like food security as well. These are both terms that are kind of in vogue, that are going around quite a bit. But this definition from La Via Campesina, you can read here: food sovereignty as the right of peoples to healthy and culturally appropriate food produced through ecologically sound and sustainable methods, and the right to define their own food and agriculture systems. So some really important terms in there, but that right to define food and agriculture systems is really key to food sovereignty. Something that's kind of missing from food security is that it's really focused on having sufficient food, but it doesn't really speak very much about the cultural appropriateness of that food, and also the sustainability of it, the right of a people to self-determine their food. So that's kind of like a grounding frame for our work in food sovereignty. Um, and maybe I'll tell you a little bit about our team. So myself, Kaz Heikowski, I'm a lifelong gardener, learned to garden from my dad, and I've always loved to work in the soil and grow my own food when I can. And my educational background is in human geography, political science, and botany, plant sciences. So you can kind of see the intersection of those fields kind of maps pretty nicely onto food sovereignty and permaculture. And prior to working with Newo, I also operated a small business in Edmonton called Spruce Permaculture for about 5 years. And we did basically permaculture, edible food system landscaping for folks in Edmonton and area. So that's a bit of my background. And Luke Wannick is also my partner on the Food Sovereignty Initiative. He unfortunately wasn't able to make it here today, but Luke has worked with the Agricultural Woodlot Extension Society. He's really knowledgeable about gardening and local food, and he's also currently working on a PhD in environmental sociology, which is focused on Indigenous food sovereignty. So working alongside Luke has taught me a lot. It's been a really amazing opportunity. And also, it's a really collaborative effort, our food sovereignty division. So Raj is often a part of our conversations. I've learned a ton from Raj. He helps to kind of orient our work and kind of give us a good spirit to the work that we do with food sovereignty. So for me personally, the last couple of years working with Newo has felt like really like almost like a master's degree in food sovereignty and permaculture. I've learned so much, gotten to practice so many incredible things and work with really amazing people. And the communications team, Jessica, Carrie, and Maven also help us to polish up what we're talking about, to speak about and communicate the kind of work that we're doing. And it's also been awesome for me to be able to collaborate more closely with our energy team as well, to work more closely with Nathan and with Maroof on some solar collaboration projects that I'll tell you a little bit more about later in the presentation. So basically, just in closing on the Food Sovereignty Initiative, I would describe us as a team with good intentions, diverse skills, and really focusing on building relationships and working in service to communities who want to develop their capacity for food sovereignty. We'll tell you a bit about some of those projects later on. So yeah, we can go on to the next slide. So questions. Told you we'd leave a couple breaks for questions through the presentation. So if there's anything that's come up about our branches or about the way we operate, we'd love to hear those questions now. You can throw them in the chat, maybe just identify who you're asking the question to, or just turn on your mic, jump in and share your thoughts.
I guess, Kaz, I have a question about how to be a better root, and if there's anything that you guys have as wishes from, let's say, me as a community member, maybe just think about that and maybe reflect on it at any time if you think about that question.
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's a really, really good one. I personally will need to reflect on that, and maybe we can talk about it later on as well, maybe at the end, kind of in more of our open circle. But if any members of our team have any thoughts on that right now, it'd be awesome to hear them. But yeah, we can also save it for later, something to consider.
As a start, I would say you're being an amazing root just by showing up today. So kudos to you, everyone here, for being a fabulous root. That's all.
Kaz, I have a quick question.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is Heather Ryu, Seb's mom. Sorry to embarrass
Right
him.
on. Great to have you here, Heather.
Thanks. Would there ever be an opportunity for community members to come out and see what you're doing on your farm, your land? And being that we're farmers as well, I'd love to come and see, well, fake farmers, what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I'd love to chat more with you about that. At the moment, in our work with Newo, a lot of it is kind of intangible right now. We're creating a lot of designs for food systems and doing a lot of community engagement. So the work is not necessarily on the ground. And for myself personally, Most of the permaculture that I've practiced, most of the food systems I've installed and the gardens I've built have been for other people. My garden, probably the last garden that I tended, was actually at my father's house, where he still gardens like crazy. So so my garden at the cooperative house where I live is really just a little hobby garden. There's some great stuff to show off there too, but hopefully in the future there'll be some opportunities for us to gather as a community and maybe plant some trees, grow some food. We were talking about some ideas of ways that we could do that in Camrose actually, and we're also cooking up some possibilities for doing that in central Edmonton too. So hopefully when we're working with the land on those projects and actually planting some food, we can reach out to all of you and you can come and get involved with us. But Heather, I'd love to come out and visit your farm and chat more with you and your family as well about what you're up to. And yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. On to our next section. So yeah, we've talked a little bit about our organization, some of our branches, and now we're going to dive a little bit more into some of the projects, more specific projects that we're working on. So I'd like to call on Raj again, and perhaps Rocky would even like to speak to this project as well, one of our collaborators, to speak a bit more about Wêyôtan, the Abundance Project.
Thanks, Kaz. Rocky, you've been pretty active there, so maybe you and Rob, you can speak to this first and I'll fill any gaps.
Okay, you want me to speak to this? Surprise, surprise. Well, I'm with Solar Power Investment Cooperative of Edmonton, and we were having conversations with Newo and really impressed with Newo and their purpose and the fact that they were training people through their projects. But we learned that they felt one of their weaknesses was that once the project was done, the people that they trained didn't have a next project to go to. So SPICE is an investment cooperative, which means that we can do debt raises and equity raises, and we can fund projects. And we're quite new. We're just growing. So we're teaming up with Newo so that we can become fully operational and hopefully be able to work with Newo to fund projects and create more of a steady training stream for them. And we're doing it specifically through a relationship that Newo has with the Bissell Center. So that Newo already did a solar installation for some energy efficiency retrofits and a solar installation with the Bissell Center, and did some local training with people that were having employment difficulties there. And so they're building on that relationship because the Bissell Center has actually 5 sites. So just building on the relationships and the successes that Newo has already achieved. So yeah, that's, I'd like you to help me out there, Rob or Raj.
So I could just mention that I also work for the Solar Power Investment Cooperative of Edmonton, which we call SPICE. And SPICE has been, for a number of years now, really trying to crack the nut of how to release funds early in a project. Because as I think many of us know, the big impediment for renewable energy projects isn't the interest in it, the need for it. It's really the upfront cost that often capsizes many people's dreams. So SPICE is a solar investment cooperative, which means we're getting the community to raise the funds for a project, and thus hopefully remove that upfront cost barrier. And our collaboration with Newo on the Bissell Center will be a very important test run for us. And the challenge is fairly high in this case, because what we want to do is fully fund a project from the very beginning without any additional cost to the host facility, which in this case would be the Bissell Center. So that's our goal. And we're working on how that business model actually works, and we have great hopes for it. And the fact that there is such a wonderful community at the root of all of this, I think will really drive it forward, because if we have to, we can raise money without tremendous returns on investment, financial returns on investment, and just assume that what we really want is the social returns on investment. So it's a redefinition of how to do that. How about that?
Yeah, that's helpful, Rob. That's what I would have wanted to say. Thank you.
No, you were
I
fine.
miss- This quote kind of sums up the question we're asking. Maybe let's go to the video that Maven's produced, and that'll be a nice way of also sharing the project.
For the Plains Cree, Wêyôtan is a time of abundance.
In a spiritual way, it's an important word, but it also is something that, Wêyôtan, like there's plenty of this.
The natural world is generous with gifts. From the sunlight to the soil, there is abundance. So we thought, let's create a community project that echoes the wealth of the elements around us. Our Wêyôtan project is already underway. Bissell Center works with communities, empowering people to move from poverty to cultural, social, and economic prosperity. At 3 Bissell locations in Edmonton, energy retrofits have been done, with aspirations of installing solar.
We got to improve the building, and we've had nothing but praise from Bissell about, like, oh, the building looks great now. It's so modern, it's so bright, it's so cheery, especially where we meet clients and we're interacting with the public. That's important.
While the community will benefit from the solar installation, individuals with barriers to employment will be given opportunities to be trained in the green energy industry.
You throw somebody a lifeline and they're going to grab it. And that's what this project was for me.
Now this is where you come in. Investing in the Wêyôtan project means helping install solar panels on community buildings and providing more opportunities for people like Ron. Beyond financial returns, the Wêyôtan project provides space for community healing, reconciliation, and environmental stewardship. Join our Wêyôtan project.
So this is a photo of Ron and Brendan. Brendan on the left was a journeyman electrician who really mentored Ron, who started his apprenticeship, renewed his apprenticeship this summer on the projects we were doing. So this year, 2022, we've got 3 pilot projects with the Bissell. As Rob was mentioning, our idea is to fully fund them and have the savings basically come off the energy bill savings. So it's a 0 cost to the Bissell. And maybe the one last thing to say about the project is, when you think of the word investment or return on investment, those words, that language comes from a culture that has an implicit vision about what meaning is made from those words. And Wêyôtan, I think it makes sense. We're reaching into the deep roots of these lands for a different sense of what those words mean and our relation to those words. And yeah, what does investment mean? And who am I in relation to my investment? And what is return? And to whom should the returns go? And this, and it's been alluded to throughout the evening, is the heart of our work is cultural. And I think what's exciting about this time is it's a time of renewal of our rootedness in these lands and the peoples of these lands, and to really hear the echoes of what abundance, the word Wêyôtan meaning abundance, it is, as Roy said, an abundant time. There's plenty of this. And it's this subtle change of perspective, perhaps more, maybe not so subtle, but that's at the heart of the project. And we're excited to see where, yeah, it's a bit of an adventure to see where the guidance of our elders take us and to see what comes of it. So we'll be that video, beautifully done. Our whole comms team was involved. Jessica Maven did a lot of the editing, and Carrie as well. So we'll be communicating more about the project as it unfolds. We hope to have by fall of this year the 3 pilots fundraised for and finished. So we're looking March, April to do our co-op membership drive, and then raise the funds in the spring, and then complete the project summer and fall. Okay, that's good.
I was just going to add maybe one thing about Wêyôtan. More than a project, Wêyôtan is really a mindset. I think that we want to, create as like the cultural foundation in our community. You know, the solar projects, they see the Wêyôtan, or the abundance of sunlight and money around us. And I think the potential that abundance has for our community. For me, when I look around, I see that there's an abundance of human energy that we don't channel very well. And each one of us, I think, has a different lens to look into the world, and we might be aware of different forms of abundance in the world that maybe we're not really taking good advantage of. And so I think in many ways, the Wêyôtan project is it's one example of, I think, what comes when you can take a different lens to the world of a view of more abundance. Just like I was saying earlier, if the world is full of problems, then it's also full of opportunities equally as much. And I think Wêyôtan is really a cultural mindset that's, I think massively important in our society currently, because we're swimming in money. You know, maybe not all of us in this call would say that, but as a society, we really are. And we have, you know, an abundance of material gifts anyways that we could use for good. And it's just a matter of, you know, slightly tweaking our imagination, I think, to see that abundance around us and to take advantage of it. So I think in many ways, we're hoping that talking about Wêyôtan like excites those, everyone has a unique vision of that abundance that is in the world.
Thanks for speaking to that a bit, Seb. And I think this call, this room that we're sharing together is a testament to that abundance, the abundance of our community and the strength of our roots and what we can do together. And thank you, Raj and Rob and Rocky, for speaking about Wêyôtan. I've never seen that video before, and it was really beautiful to see it. Yeah, Maven's done some awesome work on that. I wish she was here to hear some of the praise and to see it screened for the first time for folks. So next up, I'd like to introduce Carrie to speak about the Faithful Footprints project.
So yes, I'm Carrie. I'm on our communications team at Newo. Like a good chunk of Newo employees, I am an Augustana alum. And I was also that's actually the first time I said alum, I think, ever about myself. That's cool. But yeah, and I was also a Spirit of the Land student. So that's really how I came into contact with Newo, I would say, for the first time. And when I graduated in April 2021, I started working for Newo right out of the gates. And one of the main projects that I've been working on has been this Faithful Footprints program. So I'll just go here. So I am the coordinator, I would say, for the Faithful Footprints program. And what Faithful Footprints, that's a bit of a tongue twister when I say that many times. Faithful Footprints is a grant program put out by the United Church of Canada. And it's for any United Church property. So that means camps, churches, any kind of like outreach ministry. And they provide 2-to-1 funds for any energy efficiency or decarbonizing projects. And our job is to be the regional support center for Western Canada. So there's basically 2 main roles that we fill. One is we support churches or other properties throughout the grant process. We're just trying to make it easy for churches to actually use the money that's available for them. And if there's other local grants, which isn't always the case, but sometimes it is, if there's other grants available, then we try and share that with them. And essentially just trying to make it as easy as possible for churches to use that money. And the other thing that we do is more on the outreach side of things. So sharing far and wide across our region, which is most of Alberta and BC, is just sharing this grant information with these United Church communities. Not every community knows about it. So I'm trying to tell people about it. And I have the help from Jessica, Raj, basically everyone at Newo. That's kind of how we do. We are separate branches, but everyone helps everyone. We've said many times that it feels kind of like a really good university group project. So that's awesome. But yeah, so in 2021, we were pretty focused, like Raj said, like Seb said, like everyone said, we were pretty focused on our culture building. And that did impact how we dealt with the Faithful Footprints program. So we weren't just flurry sending out emails trying to get churches to slap on solar or change their light bulbs. That would be a win and that would be good. But we also really want to be conscious of the narrative that we're pushing and really just get people to think about what it means to be making these physical changes on buildings and just be grounded in that narrative. So a lot of 2021 is just getting that all together. And now in 2022, we're feeling super fresh, very good, and we're ready to kind of actually get out there and actively reach out to churches. And I keep saying churches, but any UCC community. So to that end, if you know anyone from the United Church, or if you're from the United Church, hit me up and we can make stuff happen. But yeah, that's a little bit about the Faithful Footprints program. I think I will leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. I really like that energy. I'm really excited to see where this project is going to go. So this is my opportunity to tell you a little bit more about those food sovereignty projects that I alluded to earlier. So yeah, I think we can advance to the next slide there. So first off, I'd like to tell you a bit about the Maskwacis Education Schools Commission Food Sovereignty Initiative. So I think it's really important to say right off the bat that our food sovereignty branch wouldn't exist without our relationship with Maskwacis and with the health and vision of MESC, of the Schools Commission of Maskwacis. To give you a little bit of background about MESC, the school commission represents really a historic victory, I would say, a historic school division It's probably unique across Canada, with maybe a few exceptions, where the 4 nations of Maskochis were able to come together and in 2018 negotiate an amalgamation, an alliance of their 4 school divisions. And for the first time, probably in their history, they've actually been able to achieve equal parity funding to other students across Alberta. So finally, students in Maskochis were receiving the same resources that they need to learn in their community. And since that time, since 2018, in spite of the duress of the pandemic and challenges that has thrown their way, the Maskochis Education Schools Commission is developing a Cree language education program, Cree cultural curriculum, working very closely with elders in the community. They have a really strong vision, and it's really, really exciting to work with them and to be a part of and to contribute to that vision. And a part of what they've been doing for the last several years is the Nanatok Mitsuin program. Nanatok Mitsuin in Cree means universal food. And this program provides breakfast and lunch every day to every student and staff member in the school division. So no student goes hungry, no student has to ask for food or pay for food. Every student, regardless of their background, gets to school with a hot meal. They enjoy a hot meal for lunch. And as a result of this program, attendance rates have gone up, student success rates have gone up, graduation rates are up. It's had a huge impact. Just providing food, something so fundamental, has made such a difference to those students' lives. So MESC has identified that they want to expand the Nanatok Mitsuin program, and not only to prepare that food, serve that food to students and staff, but also to grow some more of that food, to reconnect with the land, and to use traditional techniques to reconnect with traditional skills, to harvest traditional foods of the plains, like buffalo berry, and different berries and foods of this land, but also to use modern technologies and new technologies like hydroponics to grow food. And we have been really lucky to have been engaged by MESC to help them to conceive of a vision for that food sovereignty initiative. So over the last years, we've been building relationships with administrators, with teachers, with principals, and developing an ethical foundation for our engagements to have the deep conversations that are necessary and ask the right questions to help MESC to realize and act on their food goals. So we're not coming in as experts with a plan, telling them what to plant where and how to grow their food. It's been about grounding ourselves in a space of listening, asking the right questions, and making the right connections. And yeah, that's been a really passionate project for me, and I've learned so much along the way. The initiative at the moment is currently on hold, but we're really excited to pick it up when the time feels right and to keep moving with that energy. And I'm really confident that when we do pick it up again, it'll be even stronger. We'll be moving forward with it with a lot of health and vigor. The images you can see on the screen here are from a couple of plantings that we did over the summer with a couple of schools, with Meskenakanipoit School and with Gispatnak School in Maskochis. And we planted a bunch of different fruit trees, apples and saskatoons, different other native foods like buffalo berry. And we worked with elders for both of these plantings, opened them with ceremony, offered tobacco and offered prayers. And it was an amazing opportunity to hear from teachers, hear from staff members about how impactful these food systems could be in their classrooms and the kind of lessons that they wanted to incorporate in these food systems. So that felt like a really strong start to the project, to get some shovels in the ground and to plant some food. And you can see Luke and I down there in the bottom left corner. I think that was at Gispatnak School. So yeah, we're excited to do more plantings like that in the future and really to help expand that vision. So we can go to the next slide there, and I'll tell you about one of our other projects. So I mentioned that the MESC project is on hold for the time being, and it ended up being really fortuitous timing because just in the last couple of months, we were connected with and introduced to the Resilience Institute, which is kind of a sister organization to Newo that we didn't even know about until a couple of months ago. And yeah, having been introduced to that group felt like really good timing and felt like an exciting project that we could help them to work with. And they've been engaged along with some other partners to work with the Piikani Nation in Southern Alberta to help envision a school food and solar energy system. So kind of hybridizing two of the things that we do here at Newo, energy and food sovereignty. You can see an image of the school site here with Piikani Nation Secondary School and Napis Playground Elementary School, which is being rebuilt. And there's a lot of potential on the site. There's a lot of interest from staff to create this food system. And this has been an awesome opportunity to do more like collaboration between the branches of Newo for the food team to work more closely with the energy team on this kind of hybrid project. So yeah, hopefully these food and energy systems will be not only productive for the school, producing energy and food, but they'll also serve the students as hands-on educational resources and opportunities to engage with elders and traditional teachings. And the food plan will probably include year-round growing technologies, greenhouse space, gardens, permaculture food systems, as well as traditional foods and medicines of the Blackfoot people, complemented by those solar and wind energy systems. And yeah, it's feeling really exciting to be working with this great team, with the Resilience Institute and other partners, and to be working with staff and administrators and students with the Pagan Board of Education and the Piikani schools. See, there's lots of stuff going on in the chat right now. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I'll take a scroll through. But I think with that, I'll pass it on and we can go to the next slide. So with this next section, community training and education, we've got a couple projects that are really, really exciting that I'm really pleased to share with you. I'd like to introduce you to Joby, who holds a vision and the leadership for the Pecamu Makoce project. And he can tell you a little bit himself, his story, and the background for this project.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joby Eldert. I joined Newo, I guess it would be about 2 years. I was actually first introduced to them when they did their first training program out with Yellowhead Tribal Council. So the transition, they got me at a good time in my life, I would say. I was transitioning from being a teenager into becoming a man. It was my first year with my daughter, my oldest. So then, yeah, I was offered a job there. If you see in the middle with the red roof, that's Alexis band office. Yeah, I was offered a job with the health department doing climate change awareness, and that kind of kept me on the road of renewables as well. And Seb reached out to me after a while when I was doing the solar installation, and we had a good chat. And I was going through a lot at the time. I lost my brother, lost my grandma. But through the program that I was in, actually gave me a lot of skills and tools that could help me cope and grieve properly and keep my head on my shoulders as best as I can. So I wanted, in a way, to give back to Newo and give back to Alexis, because they've done so much for me. And I feel that creating this program, that's how I could do it, I guess. Pecamu Makoce is fixing. Makoce is earth. It was just given through a dream that ancestors and some elders were calling to me in a dream, and that's all I could hear was Pecamu Chad. And thinking about it more, it was just their way of telling me to help fix the earth. So basically, the program is going to be directed to helping trainees on a holistic side, getting all the skills necessary that I've got as well in the same training, and as well as, I guess, building the capacity of running our own company as well. And yeah, this I'm all sweaty. I'm talking. I'm really nervous. I haven't talked to this much people since, for a while.
You're doing great, Joby. I was nervous too, so I think you've done a great job. Yeah, Joby. I don't know if I reached out to you, Joby. I think you reached out to me. But when Joby came with this program, as I'm sure many of you were just touched by his story, I think Joby's intention for his community is just beautiful, right? It's just to share a gift that he has, and to help in any way possible. And so we're just kind of helping Joby along, and I think the training program, the aim of it is to train members of the Alexis community to do solar installations and retrofits in the community and also in the wider Edmonton area. To eventually become their own enterprise. And so why we're kind of doing that work beyond also what Joby's talking about of helping the community is also there is going to be a lot of projects going on in the community. And typically with First Nations, a lot of government money has to be spent on outside contractors. And so to kind of stem that issue, one of many, we're hoping to build an organization that can take advantage of those contracts and that money flowing into the community that's built right there of the people of that nation to do the work themselves. And so, Joby has emerged as a fantastic leader, and it's been a lot of fun working with him to get this program going. And we're very excited to see it come together over the summer. And it's really going to be a long-term vision of that our community might be able to get involved in as well. So we'll be sure to keep you guys in touch.
Thanks you guys for sharing about that project. And Joby just holds such a beautiful vision for this project for Pecamu Makoce. It's exciting to see him grow. And Joby, I think you spoke to that so well. And you really hold a lot of leadership for this project. So own that and keep doing what you're doing. I'm excited to see this project continue to grow, you continue to grow, and just keep rocking it. I think this is so powerful. And next up, I'd like to introduce another very powerful person in our midst, and that's Lisa. And Lisa holds a really beautiful vision herself for a sharing circle that she's starting called Free Talk. And she's the best person to speak more about that. So Lisa, I'm going to turn it over to you to share some of your vision.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Cordarelli. I first met Newo Global Energy through a program called Green Energy Training offered by YTC, Yellowhead Tribal Council. Newo taught me about how to be a solar panel installer, solar panel graphic designer, and also a solar panel saleswoman. Newo's knowledge gave me passion to help make the world a better place. With the help of Newo, I am opening a women's sharing circle called Free Talk to help women speak freely about their traumas that is a result of domestic abuse and violence. Thank you for your time. I'm just shaking. I'm so nervous.
I feel you, Lisa. I'm nervous too. I'm sure we all are. But thanks for speaking to that. That's I think you spoke about that really well. And yeah, Lisa's just in the initial stages of envisioning this, and it's been so great to see her ideas come forward and to see her stepping into that role of leadership with this project. It feels like such a good fit and such good energy. So Lisa, I'm excited to support you, and I know we're all behind you here at the Newo team and everyone in this circle. I see Margaret, you've unmuted, and Raj, you have too. So Margaret, do you have a question?
Oh, I just want to say hi, Lisa. This is a beautiful project. Thank you so much.
Hi, Margaret. I miss you. Love
miss
you.
Lisa, I was just, oh, sorry, Raj, to interrupt. I was just going to say, I think Lisa's underselling this project significantly. You're being awfully humble. Yeah, I think, I don't want to share too much of your story, Lisa, but you've been a very powerful addition to the team, and you're already taking many strides to making this a reality. And yeah, we're excited to support this endeavor. I think, as I mentioned, culturally, you know, we're, as an organization, we try to be as open in our conversations about how we're doing and what's going on. And yeah, it's exciting to see this, yeah, maybe morph into something that can help people in a different way than we've been able to with, you know, the expertise and experience that we have. So yeah, I think you're being too humble, Lisa, but I'm excited to see where this goes.
Thanks, Eb.
I was going to say that something quite similar. I guess I'm just deeply touched with the power of these projects. And yeah, I feel we saved the best for last. These two projects are the tip of the spear, I feel. And yeah, some of the unspoken elements of Seb's part about our organizational culture and vision, and I think we hold circles where leaders step forward and show us the way, and Lisa, Joby, and everyone else on this call has I hope demonstrated in some way what happens when you open up a circle and let people's gifts lead us forward. Yeah, as someone who I guess played a role in starting this, it makes my heart just so happy to, yeah, I'll just leave it at there. I'm just very thankful, Lisa, for what you're offering us.
That means a lot, Raj. Thank you.
And maybe one other thing, speaking personally again, I was very fortunate to, when my parents and our family moved to Canada, we spent our first 4 or 5 years on a reservation. And then we moved to Camrose, and it struck me that the distance between that reserve and Camrose was in some ways greater than the distance between Africa and Canada, where we'd come from. And it's always been a curious thing growing up in Canada, knowing that Makoce is 30 minutes away, but it might as well be on another country. You get vaccinated and you get your passport and kind of go there. And what gives me immense and deep hope is Newo, and starting to see what happens when the best of us shows up and all of us shows up, and the kinds of projects and leadership and conversation and sense of the world and sense of identity. It feels transforming. I've never been a part of conversations like these, and they occur on a daily. And I feel we're just at the edge of an adventure. I don't know a Canada that was led by all of us. I've never experienced that, but I'm beginning to feel a sense of that, a deep sense of that now. And I had, if I might share, I had an experience, went to the missing and murdered women's hearing in Edmonton, and Chief Willie Littlechild spoke, and an elder had directed me to find some mushrooms for smudging. And so I mustered up the courage. There was a room off to the side where all the elders were, and I went into the room and got chatting, and one of the elders actually knew my grandfather from Peace River, my mom's birth father, and then somebody came over and asked to pray for him, and the elders started singing. One elder started singing, and then elders started gathering around our table, and basically the whole room turned into this powerful chant of healing. And the energy that rose in the room was like a tsunami, like a gust of wind, that as it flowed through the room, I thought, this is indestructible. There's nothing that can stop this. And no addiction, nothing. And that energy, I think that prayer, I feel, is reflected in little ways in the energy at Newo. As we gather these powerful bits of our heart and our being, it's indestructible. And as we give ourselves space and oxygen for those parts of our spirits, climate change is easy. The problems of the world are easy. So I'm very grateful and filled with hope. And I just remembered that experience. And I'm hearing it in the voices of the people speaking. So hi.
Thanks for sharing that, Raj. And Lisa, again, thank you for sharing your vision with us and this project.
Thank you for the opportunity, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, you put on a nice dress and then you didn't even turn on your camera.
Yeah, Lisa, you're looking so good today.
Thanks. Well, I'm so shy. I'm still shaking.
Yeah.
Show the people.
Okay, a quick look.
You look great.
Look amazing.
Look great, Lisa.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm so happy to see you.
Nice to meet you too.
We won't ask Joby to show his face though.
Yes, Joby.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
You can't possibly be looking as greasy as Seb, Joby, so there's a high bar set there.
Well said from his mother.
I totally washed my hair an hour before just to avoid that.
Yeah.
And because of your comments, I've been thinking about that all day.
And in the meantime, you get to look at this great photo and ask your questions. So has anything come up in the last few presentations? Any questions or comments, some excitement you'd like to share with us, anything that's come up? You can throw it in the chat or you can jump on your mic and share it with us.
I'm also just going to stop sharing so we can just look at the people.
That sounds good.
I don't know if I have a question per se, but even like obviously I spend a lot of time with Seb and hear a lot about what's happening with Newo and stuff, and then I tell him what I'm up to and stuff. And like for me, like I guess, being also an Augustana graduate, Spirit of the Land, and then now sort of living rural Alberta, a little isolated, is like is I have these aspirations or these hopes, and I've had these businesses that I've started and stuff, but the culture part is like, to me, the hardest, which is why I understand how you guys shared that, you know, this past whole year has been really a focus internally. Is like, that makes sense, because really to be in alignment, or to do things in alignment with a vision, is actually like so hard. The more I think about it, or the more, you know, I wonder how to start to enact that, especially when you don't have a community around you. And maybe the question is like, do you guys envision like a way to, I don't know, create a greater community beyond the borders of Newo? Like, because that would be something that I'm looking for, right? Is I have these aspirations, but it's really hard for me to do alone, you know? And not that I want to do it alone. It's more like, it's where do you start kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Phil. And obviously, I'm your brother replying to you, but I think that is kind of the intention, is to help the wider community and share, you know, the abundance as we get it. We're still relatively small, and I think we're just kind of emerging from, you know, this underground growth that we've done. So I think in many ways, we don't even exactly know the answer to your question, but I think that is what we want to do, right? Is to create a community. We don't just view ourselves as like an isolated tree, like we're part of an ecosystem. And I think that ecosystem is, well, as far as we're aware of it anyways, it's really just coming together. And I think one of the things I'm kind of passionate about is I think there is a lot more good, compassionate work going on out there, and good community oriented work. But a lot of us are too small or too busy to really link together and realize how powerful we actually are, right? Like, a lot of the people doing the best work, this is obviously a massive blanket statement, so take it for what it is. But I think a lot of the people doing the best work are really head down focused and don't have the time to like lift up and say, hey, who else is around me doing this stuff? And I think that's part of the gift that Newo has, is we have that time and space, and we're built on relationality. So I know one of my intentions for the next year is really to start getting out there and, you know, kind of latching the rafts together, or whatever you want to say, like, you know, getting people to realize there is a lot of good, compassionate work going on out there. And the more that we get together as a group, the more power to affect change that we'll have. But more, I think, more so than power, just a realization that there is good stuff going on out there, and to feel good about it. And to create a community. So I think we're very much trying to create a network of support for everyone. We're just still so small, but that's definitely our intention. And speaking for myself, I have pretty big aspirations, for sure. So I don't know if that answers, and I don't know if anyone else would like to add.
The one thought I comes to mind, Bill, nice to see you. I'd like to see our organization be a lot more porous. So there are meetings that we have internally that we just like to talk about things, because life is very interesting. And it's always been in the back of my mind to open these up to the community. And I think this is one example, but just during the regular week, we often will choose a topic of interest. The last one or two have been particularly powerful as Lisa's expanded her vision and shared some of the inspiration behind it. So these conversations really feel like they belong to everybody. And they belong to everybody in that Canada, like the missing and murdered women, that belongs to everybody. The responsibility for responding to our history belongs to everybody. The responsibility for stewardship. So yeah, and I think, you know, Brenda, I see you, and Don and Marie Razika, and, you know, food sovereignty, it'd be great to have the cross-cultural, you know, more traditional farmers and regenerative farmers involved in our work in Muscat cheese, because food sovereignty belongs to everybody. So I guess you're opening a door in my mind, and I think an intention we've always held is that these conversations are so important and so vital that it'd be great to think of ourselves as more porous and really just invite people. Maybe we can publicize the topic for the week and just say, hey, you know, if you want to jump in. And I see all of our conversations, everyone that we're having, almost belongs to everybody. So if somebody has an interest in, you know, Blackfoot food sovereignty and has some inspiration or lives near Bagani Nation, you know, that should, we, you know, in conjunction with our partners and along with them showing us the way, it would be great to more and more to have, I guess porous is the word, but I think this last year we've developed our kind of our integrity, and now it's your question invites us to open the door a bit more. So thanks, Phil.
I think Kaz just said he went to the washroom. So anyone have any other questions that they'd like to share? We were gonna do breakout rooms, but I think unless people are too shy to ask questions, we'll probably just stick to the larger room.
I also think we could transition from just questions for Newo to kind of opening it up broader as a sharing space now. If anyone else has thoughts, just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I feel like Phil's question is kind of a good segue into this next section, because that's really like the purpose of having this community conversation circle. I hope that this isn't the last. I'm sure it won't be the last of these that we have. Maybe this will be the start of a trend. So this is a great opportunity for us to share this conversation together. So if there's something that you have been working on, something you're excited about, an organization that you're working with, something you want to celebrate. You've heard a lot from us, you've heard a lot from Newo, what we've been up to and our team, but what have you been up to? Our community, our roots, what's feeding you right now? What are you working on? And what would you like to be talking with us about? And if you have any other comments or questions, feel free to share those as well. But the floor is yours if there's anything that you'd like to share. And if you're feeling nervous, we're all feeling nervous, you know. I was feeling nervous, I know Seb was, Lisa was, so that's okay. Jump in and share.
My name is Anita. I am in Edmonton, and I was touched by Phil's sharing, because I think that one of the problems in our crazy world is that we have lost hope in a way. And the question, you know, even at my old age, I feel kind of discouraged about what's the possibility, what can I do to make a difference? I certainly don't approve about the way the world is going, but it's hard to see whether we can do anything that is going to make a meaningful or significant difference. And I think that the value that I see in what Newo is doing is that it's, you know, when it started, it sounded like a crazy idea. And the only reason why I didn't dare say that was because if we don't start somewhere, we just succumb, give up to hopelessness. And I don't know really how it would be possible to inspire the younger people that there is something that they can do, and that comes in community, in creating connection with others, and just being the best that you can be in your own life. But somehow, unless we open up to show up and bring it out in the community. I think that the same way that all of us are feeling inspired now after hearing what new people are doing during these few years, and to what level you are bringing it, it's inspiring, and it gives us the possibility of perhaps doing a little bit more effort ourselves to also do a little change in whatever area that we are in our lives. So of course I don't have an answer, but I think that there are some isolated islands of decent, amazing people that are doing inspiring work. And unfortunately, a lot of our elders, myself included, are not going to last for too long. And I think that it's important that we support those that are coming along and that are looking for something to inspire them. So I don't know if making those meetings more porous, because I am also aware that everybody's so busy. Now we have all these cell phones and Zoom meetings and live and all those things to do. So I don't know how that will work, but I think that you are trying enough crazy things and some of them have worked. So go ahead and use that hope and that energy to carry on. And if there is a torch or if we have matches to light the way, I think that we should just, each of us, do the best we can, even if it's just showing up to this meeting and to show that we care. So thank you so much for the inspiration. I am really missing it these days. Just as I see your younger faces, it gives me hope. So thank you.
Thanks, Anita. Yeah, I appreciate that reflection back, because one of the things, like, to start this new year, we've been doing a lot more outreach to the public. This is like, I think, my 4th public discussion and meeting. And I've always been trying to, I guess, put out the good positive energy of what we're doing. But one of the issues is that we're inspiring so many people that they want to all join us. And I don't have an answer as to how we can bring everyone together. It's kind of, it's a good problem to have, I suppose. But I think one of the things I'm seeing as we're starting to put ourselves out there a bit more is that there is an appetite for this. And we're not the only ones doing this type of work, is the other thing I'm starting to see as we're getting out there. There's a lot of good work going on. So I think the synthesis of what you said and what Phil talked about is, I guess just continuing to get out there in community. And I think we are crazy enough to try some ideas. And this is already, at least speaking for myself, at top of my mind in terms of sharing and seeing how we can, bring together more people to do good work in the community. And our Wêyôtan project in Spice is also an example of that, of partnering with local organizations to try and get good work going in the community. And I think we have a lot of good things going on. We're just kind of right in the incipient phases. But I think the intention with this conversation is to see what sort of good stuff is going on in the community and what's the interest. And I think also to do projects that are maybe a bit easier for people to get involved in. Like, I know Raj and I have talked about, like, doing mass tree planting, for example, or something that, everyone can kind of get involved, talk, be together, be outside. Because the thing about solar and things like that, it's kind of hard to contribute, but maybe on our food sovereignty side of things, we could be more intentional about creating projects that, many people can show up to, and it doesn't require any skill. Even just being there is good. And I've always thought of tree planting as like the perfect opportunity to get a bunch of people together and to chat and do good work. So maybe things like that would be a good catalyzer to bring the community together. But we're we're definitely thinking about ways to be more intentional on that front. So I appreciate that reflection.
Does anyone else feel like sharing something or have any thoughts to bring up with the group?
If no one has anything, I could share some of the stuff I'm up to.
Go ahead.
Well, I'll share the literal stuff I'm up to and then the dreams that I have. But literally, so an issue we had, me and a lot of my close friends, we were in wildfire and a problem. And so far it's me and one friend, and hopefully this summer we'll have another friend joining us. But we had this skill in wildfire, which is essentially running a chainsaw, was like one of the most tangible skills we had. And so me and my friend Nolan realized what we could do from that was start an arborist company. And we did that last summer and wound up becoming relatively successful. And it's something that I've realized, and the idea that I sort of play around with is that that's a very profitable model, easy to train people, and capable of allowing us to expand into other ideas, or capable of giving us space to start thinking about other ideas. And so from there, me and my partner Jill, we're going to start growing culinary mushrooms, which I did an apprenticeship on. And so we're going to start growing a mushroom farm. And so like those are kind of fun, or like different things, but the ideas, and I'm not good, it's like it's my personal ethics that are currently holding the direction of where this could go. It's not like we're not a social enterprise, but my ethics would be under a social enterprise, I suppose. But the idea would be to create that idea of abundance financially for ourselves, where we could start to explore other ways of living or other ways of creating community. And I guess internally we've been, I guess, kind of recluses for the whole COVID session. We built ourselves a tiny home and stuff like that. But maybe it is 2022 and like meetings like this that help us start to reach out, because what I would really want is a way of creating a defined culture, like something more tangible, I guess, as it's not just my ethics. There's something that other people or people outside of me see that, just like Newo does for me, I'm sorry. Just like Newo does for me, provides me a tangible company that has an ethic that I believe in. I want to do that, but it's not as easy as you might think before you try, And that's just hope, is that, well, one, Newo gives me hope, and that it is crazy ideas, or like where you figure out what value you have, or like just happen how your life gave you some skills, and how can you turn those skills into value, and then how can you develop the ethics to live by these values, or to execute on these values. And so I think like meetings like this help reinforce that, is whether it is like we start to interact more, because like God knows that I do need to interact more in this community to maintain hope, maintain a direction and stuff like that. But mostly just that's an update of what we're doing. And that's also the value that Newo provides, like an extra value, like that abundance that Newo provides just by being Newo.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. That's I appreciate you being open like that too. I think the thing about starting this type of organization is it's not like one person or one idea. Like it's really it's a community, and a lot of what you're pointing to, I think, it comes from like elders and culture, and an understanding of history and connection to land. So I know if I was to have to start Newo on my own, there is 0% chance that would ever happen. And I think everyone who started Newo would not claim to have started it from their own ideas, right? It's really yeah, a synthesis of many different things. So yeah, I personally appreciate you being very open about that. And I think hearing both you and Anita, the spaces from which you spoke from for the need for this, I think for me is getting my juices flowing in terms of potential ideas on how to make this work. And anyways, so I'll pause there and let anyone else join in, but I appreciate yeah, the openness from both of you.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to that a little bit, if I may. When I founded Spruce Permaculture, the business I ran, I founded Spruce in 2016, the same year that the Newo was founded, and operated that for 5 years, and you know, really had good intentions for it, and you know, wanted to have those ethics built into it, and at the end of it, I really wanted to turn it into a worker-owned cooperative to build that democratic culture, and basically to give the power to do good work and create a livelihood to our team. And it didn't work. It was kind of frustrating. It was a learning opportunity, but it just didn't land. And then when I got involved with Newo, kind of at the same time that we were doing that, it was like being embraced by a different culture, like a slow moving space, a warm, healthy space that's guided by elders, that's guided by a really strong community. And I think we can see so many members of that community here today, like, you know, seeing some of the mothers in the room who have given us so much guidance and wisdom, and family members and elders. Like, I couldn't have done that on my own with Spruce Permaculture. And you know, you may encounter some of the same challenges with your own business, your own endeavors. But I really hope that we can answer the question that you're raising here, that we can open up that space and answer that and bring you into those conversations. I can't speak for the whole team, but I would be excited for that. I feel like Newo is a space where we can do that, where anyone who wants to be involved in those conversations can and learn alongside us. We don't have it figured out. We're figuring it out every day, as a team, as a community. So I'd love to have you, Phil, and everyone in this room involved in those conversations.
I was going to say thank you for that, Phil. Good meeting you on here. And yeah, that was really inspiring. Yeah, thank you for opening up and just being as real as you can. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for you, if I say so myself.
Thank you, Verna. I appreciate that. And
I was not expecting to cry this much tonight. I just want to say that.
You know, I feel, normally I am shy, but I feel tempted to say one more thing. Probably, I don't want to insult any of you, but my personal experience is that probably most of us in this screen are kind of misfits. And so the problem with what Katz was mentioning about the company he was trying to do and what you are trying to do, Phil, is that you have to find the right people. And because there are not all that many misfits, because if there would be many misfits, then we wouldn't be the misfits. So obviously we are the minority. And so I think that is important to keep the dreams, but also recognize that it's not only up to you and all the good things that you may be able to do, but also having the lack of getting into the other misfits that are going to support your vision. But on the other hand, if you notice about all the projects that they have been presenting this evening, one of the main, whether you succeed as a company or not, or whatever outlook you have, a lot of the work that is being done is in the contact that you have with the people that you work with. Because as I think Rajan was saying, it's in the culture, right? It's in creating that culture. And that's what makes the difference. So if you are just able to keep that perspective, that kind of message in your heart, it's not your personal failure if it doesn't work in the way that you envision it, because there are not enough people with those ideals that are able to support it. But on the other hand, to keep remembering that there are some of those kind of people around in the world, and all you can do is keep touching other people with your vision. And some of those will, you never know. The seeds you plant, you never know which ones are going to grow or in which form. So just keeping that dream alive and doing the best you can with it. And just as you are saying, it's very healthy that you recognize how important it is to have that encouragement and that feedback. And just reach out whenever you need it. And perhaps you have a grandma that loves you and can pat you in your back. And if not, you can ask Rajan to give you my phone number. And good luck with that.
Well, thank you. I didn't intend to make this a feel for Phil thing, but I really appreciate it. I more was well, I also didn't intend to get emotional, but it was more, I more mean is like I have a ton of hope and I have a ton of ideas and a ton of stuff, but what I see is like the challenge that Newo went through about, and maybe you guys can just even talk to your challenges about creating culture, is like that might be like one of the biggest things is how do you create that culture? How do you develop yourself as a leader to hold space and stuff like that and maybe that is, that Kaz, as you said, is the slow growth of Newo with elders at the head who understand how to keep things slower, how to, develop things. Is like, I don't have that skill, and it's like I go, and yet, maybe you wish you could somehow, and whether that, and maybe that's the question, is like, how do you create, how do we create avenues to connect to elders or people to provide you that slowness or that foundation that you need, maybe. But yeah, I appreciate the kind words, everyone, and I'm more just trying to create, I guess, a conversation about these challenges, because I think these are real speed bumps that are hard to cross.
I think your question, Phil, for me, when I was talking about the organization culture thing, as I was doing my original rendition of what the slides would look like, it was going to be essentially that whole narrative, but it would have taken forever. And I wanted to make sure that we got into everything. So as I was writing it, I was like, maybe we should have like a whole nother presentation on this, because I think your question is extraordinarily complex. To say how it built. I think, speaking for myself, our culture, I think, came from a deeper understanding of grief and how poor we are at grieving in our society. And I think in working through grief, at least for myself, and I think for the organization, we learned a lot about how to host people as their whole selves, because when you're grieving, yeah, to be asked to be like productive in like the current sense of our words is very unkind. And so I think in trying to integrate, how would you say it, compassionate grief in our organization while trying to be professionally successful, I think the tension or the cooperation between those two forces really bore out who we are today. To say it very quickly, I think it is a tension of, yeah, and all of those emotional spaces, mind, body, spirit, and emotion, of trying to integrate that well in an organization while trying to operate within the current paradigm, which does a disservice to all those things, right? It's, I think, trying to, yeah, just balance that tension is really how we've got to this point. And I think also to what Anita said, this is kind of an aside, just going back. We're only as successful as our culture is ready for us. That's what Raj says all the time, right? Like, the only reason we're here having this conversation is that the world is somewhat ready for Newo and for the misfits to maybe have a bit of a say. And Raj and I used to talk about like what happens when Newo becomes cool. Well, I think Newo is becoming kind of cool lately, because I've been talking, well, I've always thought it was cool, but I think externally I've started to see like sharing it. It is cool. And I think our culture is ready for this conversation. Maybe not at large, but you know, there's a lot of hanging fruit out there. And so, yeah, I think our culture is as successful as our culture, or sorry, our organization is as successful as our community and culture around us is ready. And I really truly believe that our internal culture was born, among many things, from trying to integrate grief well, in a paradigm that just doesn't allow that to happen.
I'm not sure what I'm going to say to this, but and maybe to expand it a little, the one thing our society is afraid of is our darkness. But that's where the fullest light comes from. And so you look at Alberta, the one thing we're afraid of is like what happens when the economy that we know ceases. And we're desperately holding on to that economy, but actually the seeds of our future come from that darkness. So that's why, like, we're deeply humbled to have Joby and Lisa leading us. That's the edge, is, you know, for Indigenous women in particular who suffer from violence. That space is our future. And if we get that space right as a community, then everything follows, from the mother of the children, the mother of the land, the mother of the people. So I think at our core is to turn into the darkness with support, healthy support with elders, with community. And that's where all the life energy surges forward, because that's where the seeds are born from. So I'd say that if we have any trick, not a trick, but that's where our growth, our life comes from. And it takes a tremendous amount of spiritual support to turn into that darkness. And that's what the elders are for. They are people who've walked through, and they say it's not that dark. And they say the seeds of your greatness will come from these spaces you're afraid to enter. imagine Alberta, we could become like the greatest. We say, okay, like let's pivot into the darkness. Let's cash in all our money on the future. Like that would be just unreal. But so it's a real spiritual turning because it takes courage. And I think one of the themes that I'm hearing tonight, and it's always been an emphasis, is you just can't do that alone. Because none of us alone has near the courage that is required. None of us would volunteer. We can't. It's kind of just a way we're constructed. We can't have that courage because it's bigger than us. And so is our greatness. Our greatness is bigger than us. So we have to be able to let go of that known. And that's why to do it in the company of good, healthy friends. And then you discover not only is it easy, it's very hard to maintain resistance against, our good angels. That's tough. But as you soften in good company. Not only is it easy, but it's so life-giving and so enlivening. And yeah, I guess we've been very blessed so far, and just grateful to be out in the community. And it feels like these projects are, other people are hearing and seeing them. And so maybe our society is ready for more than we give them credit to.
Yeah, I personally feel like they are. I abide strongly by the notion that humans by nature are compassionate and cooperative, because if they weren't, then we'd all be dead. So I think by that simple extension of logic, there is good stuff out there and more than bad. Maybe I'm naive, but that's my personal belief. And that's what kind of fires me up to wake up every day, is to see if we can pull more and more of that compassion and creativity that we have within us out of ourselves. I think it's there. And like I said before, I think there's so much human potential energy that we're laying on the table that we're not using, that we should all be super excited. Like there's just so much there. In my opinion, that is just ready to be channeled in a much better direction with a better story that's more fun. And we're either at the precipice of the end or ready for a great new future. And I always choose to believe for the latter, and I'll never let that go.
Well, I'm just recognizing that we've been gathered for just about 2.5 hours now, and just out of respect for people's time, I know you've got probably things to get to and an evening to get on with, and probably you'd like to wind down a bit, but we were thinking of doing some breakout rooms. I don't necessarily know if there's appetite for that right now. I'm open to talking about that, but what I'm hearing is really an invitation and an appetite for more conversations like this, and maybe talking a little bit more about, organizational culture, and talking a bit more about the details of that, and mulling that over as a community, and just gathering more like this for similar topics. Makes me think of the Spirit of the Land conference that Newo was really born out of, and the kind of conversations that were happening there. But if folks feel like keeping the conversation going, please send a message or bring something up. But I think I'd be comfortable with calling it a night. What are your thoughts?
there's an Oilers game, so I'm kind
I was just gonna say that. I'm not gonna lie, I did check the score, but only once.
Speaking about hopelessness.
The one last game. That was rude, Raj.
On the nose.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. It's 0-0, Verna.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you,
thanks.
everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, everybody.
Thank you. This is excellent.
Thanks, Margaret.
Yeah. Good night. Be well.
Good night, everyone. Take care. Talk to you again soon.
Thank you. It was fantastic.
Good night.
See you.
Yep.
Yeah, good night.
Bye now.
Yeah.
Good night.